So, guys, Fulham 0, Manchester United 1. This is your full-time reaction from yesterday's Premier League game for Manchester United away at Craven Cottage on match day 23 of the 24-25 Premier League season, where somehow from somewhere Manchester United managed to get 3 points and managed to get over the line, but only just in my view, because there was nothing pretty, there was nothing great, and there was no professional commitment in that game yesterday. I have never got so close in all to my life to switching a Manchester United game off my telly. I was that close to switching it off because the first half absolutely stank of pure shit. Like, the stench was so bad, it was so toxic. I couldn't stand the aftertaste that was in my mouth and in my nose. There was nothing pretty about yesterday's game. There was nothing great about yesterday's performance. Manchester United are yet again getting by and are scraping results because, in my view, we were lucky that Lisandro Martínez stepped up and delivered when he did. Even though there's a massive bit of fortune and a massive bit of luck on the end of his shot that managed to take a massive deflection off the Fulham midfielder and managed for the ball to leap over ex-Arsenal reject in LENY. If that wouldn't have happened yesterday, and if there wasn't that bit of luck on Manchester United's side, that result wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't have got those 3 points, and it would have been another draw and another devastating result for this fan base and for all those Manchester United supporters who I actually commend going to watch that yesterday, because I don't know what everyone's thoughts and opinions and views are on that game yesterday. But let's be honest, how we got 3 points is nothing more than a bloody miracle, because in my view, we didn't play well. We really did not play well. For me, we were bang average at best, and average is actually being very kind, because there was no tempo to Manchester United yesterday. We looked very tired. We looked very fatigued. There was a lack of energy. There was a lack of performance in several big stars yesterday that Manchester United do have in that team. There was just nothing from the get-go, really. And from the first half to the second half, there was a bit of difference, but it wasn't that much in terms of quality. But I feel Fulham have been massively robbed. I feel Fulham have been massively denied a point, which they probably, in their terms, probably deserve to come away with an actual result. And obviously, we have taken 6 points off Fulham. We have completed a double. For once, in a good positive outcome, we have taken 6 points from 6 off Fulham from this season. We've managed to keep 2 clean sheets against them. We've managed to score 2 goals. But it's just the performance as a whole that it doesn't really surprise me that Manchester United are scraping the barrel. And it's because of the team selection. It's because of certain players not being good enough. And Ruben Amorim is basically having to get on with it and basically do the job he's been brought in to do. But how is a manager meant to be able to be successful if he is stuck with players that don't fit his system, don't want to use the system, and are not willing to change their ways of playing different football and a different style of play under a new manager? Ruben Amorim is the biggest admiration I've got a lot of time and space for, because you can see there's a manager in there. You can see there's a manager that actually gives a shit. There's a manager there that actually wants the best for Manchester United Football Club. You can see it in his press conferences. You can see it by his body language. You can see it by his demeanour. You can see it by his facial expressions. You can actually see a manager there that is willing to get the best out of what he's being able to get out of. And Nick has said, I think it's because most of the players do not really suit the system. I completely agree with Nick in the chat. Most of the players in that team do not fit Ruben Amorim's system. But Ruben Amorim is basically having to get on with it, because the Glazers and Ineos, who are the biggest snakes in Manchester United's football club history, are basically dictating and tying Ruben Amorim's hands behind his back. And basically, we are sat here penny pinching again, where we've got this last week of the transfer window. We've signed no one. all we've done is let Anthony go on loan and we haven't brought anyone in. And to be honest, that isn't fucking good enough. That really, for me, isn't acceptable, where you could see yesterday Manchester United were really, really struggling to get over that line. We were really struggling to create any good attacking chances. We didn't really have any decent shots on goal for the whole of the first half. And for the second half, it took a pure bit of luck to get that result. It took a pure bit of luck to get that goal, because if Lisandro Martínez wouldn't have had that shot at that time of the game, and it wouldn't have obviously taken that massive deflection off the Fulham midfielder and the ball leap over Leno, who still got his hands to it, that wouldn't have gone in. I think if that deflection wouldn't have happened, Leno clearly would have got the ball quite comfortably from the Lisandro Martínez shot. So Manchester United, in some aspects, have got to be very grateful that that deflection has managed to loop the ball over Bernd Leno in goal. Because if that doesn't happen, I honestly would struggle to understand how Manchester United would have won that game, because from start to finish, we were bloody dreadful. There was no attacking threat. We hardly created any chances on goal. And we're basically stuck with players who, again, aren't good enough, don't fit this manager, don't fit the system. But Ruben Amorim's got two hands tied behind his back because of Ineos and the Glazers, who are clearly trying to fail this football club, who are clearly trying to fail yet again another manager that completely gets what I think the fans and supporters see. I think Ruben Amorim is on the same wavelength as us. I think he can see the problems. I think he can see the issues. I think he can see Manchester United are lacking quite a lot of quality in that team. And he can see what the fans are feeling. He can see what the supporters are complaining and are angry and frustrated with. But what is Ruben Amorim meant to do with that squad, where you've got a load of players that aren't good enough, but he's having to pick them? He's having to use those players because Manchester United won't back the manager. They won't spend money. They will use their excuses to find a way of getting past this January transfer window without spending a penny, which we haven't done. We haven't sold anyone. We haven't brought anybody in. How is this manager meant to be successful when there's clearly no backing from the board and from the owners to actually get this manager what he wants and what, in my view, Ruben Amorim actually deserves? Ruben Amorim deserves backing. He deserves new signings. He deserves new players. How Ineos and the Glazers can't see the problems that the fans and supporters can clearly see with the naked eye. They are massively, massively fucking this football club over. They are basically screwing us up to become a great football club once again. That is because we've got owners that don't give a shit, and we've got Ineos, who were meant to be the new hope. They aren't the new hope. They are making things 10 times worse before it even was like this. I mean, at least the Glazers would have gone and spent money. At least the Glazers would have gone and got us players. You've got Ineos, who've been brought in to get this football club back to where it needs to be. And what have they done? What have they actually done since they've been brought into this football club? They've not done anything. They've sacked a manager and let Anthony go on loan. That is the foundation of what Ineos have done so far. They sacked Ten Hag and let Anthony go on loan. And if they're at that game yesterday, which they were, you've got to look at that team. You've got to look at the performance. And Ineos, surely somewhere in their brain, if they've got a brain, have to look at those players and think to yourself, we're scraping the barrel. We are scraping teams like Fulham. We are only getting a 1-0 win. And the performances aren't great. The result isn't fantastic. And there's a load of problems. And Ineos can't see that. And that is what I'm really struggling to understand. What are Ineos here for? If Ineos were meant to be brought in to be the foundation of getting this club back to where it needs to be, then I'm sorry, they've got to pull their finger out of their ass and start watching the games blindfolded, because there's money in that team that could be sold. There's money in that team that needs to be injected into it. And you sat there using financial fair play, PSR this, PSR that, and sell to buy crap. And I'm absolutely sick to death of it. And the problem is, there are certain sections of this fan base and supporters, you know who you are. You are going along with what the Glazers and Ineos want you to believe. You are basically being strung along by them to believe that these issues are actually a real thing. They're not. There's no evidence to prove this. Show me some kind of evidence on paper that Manchester United are struggling because of all three of these issues. Show me some evidence. Show me the paperwork. And see my response, because there isn't any. See how quiet I was then. There is no paperwork. There is no evidence. Man United are completely brainwashing half of this fan base, and you're strung along with them. And if you want to believe these issues Man United have got, be my guest. I'm not going to stop you. But then you are then going to become part of the problem at this football club. And if you want to be part of the problem, you are going to have to be forced out of this club if you like it or not. Man United, if you look at that team yesterday and you look at those players, you look at that back three, Harry Maguire is only in that team because he's been given a 1-year extension on top of his contract. Harry Maguire was going to go to West Ham last summer, was going to go to West Ham in January in 2024. Manchester United ended up pulling out of the deal with West Ham that West Ham got agreed for Maguire, and Man United pulled out because West Ham couldn't afford the wages that Harry Maguire was on. Since Maguire has been given this contract extension on top of his current 6 month that he had left on his contract, all of a sudden, Harry Maguire has got back into this team. Harry Maguire is back in the Man United squad. And for me, I don't know why he should be in that squad. I don't know why he should be in that team. Harry Maguire should have been forced out of this football club when Man United should have pulled the trigger. I don't care if Man United had to pay him off. I don't care if they still owed him money on his wages. Man United have got to start grabbing the balls by the horn and force these dickheads out of this football club. And people say you can't really say that. I can say what the fuck I want, because at the end of the day, you've got Harry Maguire, who shouldn't be here. You've given him a year extension on his contract because you were too scared and too pussy to let him go for free because he only had 6 months left on his contract and you don't want to lose him for anything. Man United should have went nowhere near a contract extension. They shouldn't have given him one because his performances don't justify it. Man United should have found a buyer this month for Harry Maguire and brought a replacement in. The problem is why Man United can't shift a player like Harry Maguire out this football club is because of the wages that he is on. And if he went to West Ham, Man United would have still ended up having to pay part of Maguire's wage to him in person just to make him go to West Ham. West Ham were then told, we want you to pay all of the wages. West Ham were told, you've got to pay for his wages because we can't afford it. Man United backed out that deal and it made them look really, really scared. And I'm sorry to say, that is on Maguire himself and on Manchester United for being so bloody idiotic and being so scared to let a player like that leave. He is not good enough. His performances at the moment don't justify him being in that team, that starting 11. I don't know why he's getting this chance. I don't know why he's being allowed to put a Manchester United shirt on in the first place. He isn't good enough. But Man United are so sentimental towards certain players in that team that they're too scared to let them go. They're too scared to replace them. They're too scared that if they let them go for free, where's the money going to come from to buy a replacement? Well, you remove that wage. You remove that problem in the team. You will save money if you bring in a better player on lower deferred wages than what Maguire's currently on now. But Man United have given him this contract extension. So it's more likely Harry Maguire is going to be back in this team again next season because no one's going to buy him. No one's going to be able to afford the wages he is on. And Man United are going to end up having to keep Maguire because they then can't afford another centre-back. This is the big, big issue and the big problem that I have with Manchester United. It's hanging on to the dead wood. It's hanging on to players that should have been removed from this football club a long fucking time ago. And Man United have stuck by them way too long because you've then got a young player in 18-year-old LENY YORO, who's for me one of the best young centre-backs in world European football. You paid 60 million for him from Lille. to beat the likes of Real Madrid to his signing. And Real Madrid were so desperate to bring Yoro. Real Madrid were desperately trying to get Leny Yoro out of Lille, but they didn't want to pay the money and the wage that Leny Yoro or Lille wanted for the player. Man United ended up having to give in. Manchester United ended up having to give Lille what they wanted for Yoro, and they ended up giving him the wage that the Yoro and his agents requested for him to become a Manchester United player. Yoro's not seeing minutes here. Yoro's hardly getting a kick. Yoro's hardly getting any game time. And you've got players like Maguire and Lindelof ahead of Leny Yoro. Leny Yoro was brought in to be the future for now and for the future years on. What is Leny Yoro still being put on the bench for? Yoro should be starting in that back three with Martínez and DALOT, because that defence is all over the place, because that back three is so incompetent, so defensively weak, because they deep down know that system doesn't fit those three all together in the centre-back partnership with Martínez, DALOT and Maguire, because DALOT and Martínez aren't comfortable with a player like Maguire in that team, because Maguire holds on to the ball too much. He passes the ball way too much back to Onana. Maguire is too silly with the ball and playing long ball FC to try and get it on for Rasmus HOJLUND or Joshua ZIRKZEE to be the long target man to hoof the ball up to them, for them then to bring the ball down in front of the opposition back centre-back. That, for me, is very, very idiotic play. And you've got Leny Yoro, who is calm, sophisticated, and has got the quality to be able to develop to become a best centre-back in world and European football. But you've got these two problems in front of him because they are getting more game time than him. And I don't know if they're handling Leny Yoro with a lack of respect or a lack of dignity, but you would have thought logically, you've paid 60 million for this centre-back and he's not getting ahead of Maguire and Lindelof. And you would have thought logically Manchester United would have learnt their lesson by now and realised we are making a mistake here by not starting Yoro because he's not getting that game time. He's not been given that chance to start a lot of games in a row. And I don't know if they're handling the situation because he had that bad injury in pre-season last year in 2024 and they don't want to keep chucking him week in, week out. Or they're just too naive to pick him because of players like Maguire and Lindelof have got that bit more of experience of playing in the Premier League than what Yoro has done in a United shirt so far. But I think for me, if Yoro's looking at this now and he's not starting on Thursday night against FCSB in the Europa League on match day 8, if he doesn't start then and you've still got Maguire and Lindelof ahead of him, if I'm Leny Yoro, I'm going to have to start looking at my future. I'm going to have to start looking at, is this club the right one for me? Is this football club really the right direction for my career to go in? Because theoretically, they've paid big money for me. I should be starting in this team. I should be inside that back three, really, with Martínez and DALOT, because it's a lot more solid and a lot more of a solid foundation. And it's a lot more defensively better than having Maguire in there. But I've still got Maguire and Lindelof ahead of me. How the hell am I going to get game time or be back in this team when these two really shouldn't be at Manchester United? And I think Yoro probably knows that himself, that in my view, he shouldn't be at Manchester United if he's not getting this game time. I think he should be starting week in, week out. You should be putting out your best team. You should be putting out your best players. And the problem is we are rotating and tinkering with this team so much that everyone becomes completely disconnected with each other. And you've got everyone in that team looking around at one another thinking, what do we do? There's even players giving instructions to each other. And it's like, for me, this is where this club's also going wrong, because Ruben Amorim is the manager, not the players. It's Ruben Amorim. But you've got players dictating to one another where everyone should be on that pitch, where we should play that pass, where we should play that ball, how far should we go progress up the pitch. That's getting a little bit annoying now, that the players are making their own decisions for themselves and not actually listening to what Ruben Amorim is basically requesting the players to do for him and to perform the way that he wants the players to perform at. But when you've got players dictating and ruling the rules on the pitch, we don't get anywhere. We don't actually get anywhere. And this is why I think YORO comes back in the team, because there's a centre-back that actually gets the identity and the DNA of what Manchester United's all about. But he shouldn't have been on the bench yesterday. For me, it's an idiotic decision. And especially what Maguire did against Rangers, that could have happened again yesterday. And if he would have made that same mistake again, he would have been absolutely crucified. And I don't think Maguire's putting a foot wrong at the moment. But if you look at last week, if you look at last Thursday, surely Ruben Amorim should have realised that happens again, he's going to get crucified, and then I'm going to get the chop. I'm going to get the blame by picking him. And Ruben Amorim is waiving that risk here. If he wants to keep picking Maguire, be my guest. But the more you pick Maguire, the more the mistakes will happen if you don't put a player like YORO in that team, in that back three, because Martínez doesn't look comfortable for Maguire, and nor does DALOT. They only look comfortable when YORO's in that back three. And that's the big problem here. We need YORO back in that team ahead of Maguire and ahead of Lindelof, because otherwise the back three goes to pieces. The defence absolutely crumbles in front of your own eyes. And that's what worries me. Because if you look at the amount of attacking chances Fulham had yesterday, look how many times we got on our penalty area. Look how many shots they had on our goal. And again, Fulham didn't have their best game yesterday and didn't play their best football, but they still created the better chances and still managed to create Manchester United several problems in our penalty area. That was because of our back three isn't stable and it isn't controlled, because you've got Maguire in there, you've got Lindelof. Like, it's not good enough. And I feel sorry for YORO. And if it carries on, he may have to look at a move and he may have to go elsewhere, because it's not fair. And my big fear is we've brought him in here because in the future, in 5 to 10 years' time, Man United will sell him for big money. That is what I think the plan's been on along. We'll beat Real Madrid to the signing, but in 5 years' time, look how much we're going to be able to get him for, get him sold for. That's the big plan in my view. So I think that's the conversation ended on the back three. As to the midfield, again, what really I'm starting to struggle with, and what I'm starting to witness quite a lot, this midfield too, I'm sorry to say, isn't working. Playing two wing backs and playing two midfielders in this team, I'm sorry, I have to be honest now. I don't think this is working. I don't think that is helping anyone. I don't think that's helping Bruno. I don't think it's helping UGARTE. And when you've got two wing backs like DALOT and Mazraoui, like, no disrespect, Mazraoui's been good. Mazraoui's been okay since he joined from Bayern Munich, and has been probably our standout signing of last year's summer transfer window by an absolute mile, if everyone could probably say that. But yesterday, it really summed up that we can't defend going back. We can't bomb going forward. And as for the midfield, we are clearly missing that third midfielder. We are clearly missing that third midfielder with Bruno Fernandes and Manuel UGARTE. And I think that is going to have to end up having to change, because I don't think it's benefiting their game, because they're not just having to do their job in an attacking sense. They're both having to do their job in a defensive sense as well, because normally when it was under Ten Hag, we would have that third midfielder with Bruno pushing forward with MAINOO, and then UGARTE being the main CDM role. Since Amorim's come in, we have taken that third midfielder out of the team. We've got two wing backs that clearly, one's better going forward than the other. One's defensively better going back than the other as well. And that is all in favour of Mazraoui. Mazraoui defensively is good, and going forward, he is even better as well. But with Diego Dalot at left back, at left wing back, whatever you want to call it, how many bad games has Dalot had now? How many bad performances has Dalot had in a Manchester United shirt? He has been so inconsistent for this football club ever since he's joined. He's never been that standout left back, right back, whatever you want to call it. He's not been one of those players that has actually benefited. He's one of those players that I think has made Man United defensively worse And for an attacking sense, he's not great at going forward either. And that, again, is a big, big problem because we are stuck with DALOT at left back. We are stuck with DALOT at left back because we haven't got a left back. We basically don't have one because Luke Shaw is injury prone. Malacia, we all knew, should have had his injury record looked at before we even went anywhere near the signing. And we end up having to use DALOT there for most of our fucking games because Ruben Amorim has figured Malacia out and he's figured Luke Shaw out. Ruben Amorim has worked out that Man United have got so many bloody problems that he's basically stuck between a rock and a hard place because he realises Malacia isn't good enough. Luke Shaw is injury prone and all we've basically got is DALOT at left wing back and or at left back, whatever you want to call it really. We're stuck with DALOT. We don't have anyone else there. We need a bloody left back and we need to get one signed this week and we need to fucking sanction it. But it's taking too long. It's taking way too long for Manchester United to go and bring a left back in. And again, as Fabrizio Romano has said today, we are still in talks to get this Patrick Dorgu from Lecce, from Italy, from Serie A. They're in a relegation battle. They're fighting relegation. I'm really concerned that we're going for another Serie A player. I'm concerned that we're going for quite a young, fragile, versatile player that hasn't got that experience at a big football club. And we're paying quite big money for him, where Manchester United really should have been figuring out a better left-back solution and bringing a young 20-year-old in who's got that lack of Premier League experience and is playing for Lecce in Serie A. And I mean, if you look at it, look how that's turned out for Rasmus HOJLUND. Look how that's turned out for Joshua ZIRKZEE. Those moves haven't worked. And I think Man United are going to end up having to pay the price again because having to bring a left back in, they don't really want to get or bring in because we can't get Kirkes out of Bournemouth. We can't get Nuno Mendes out of PSG. We can't get Alphonso Davies out of Bayern Munich. And problem is, Man United are too scared to pay up for either of these three. Man United don't want to pay big bucks. But the problem is you're then going to Lecce overpaying for a 20-year-old Denmark international left-back that hasn't really seen what Manchester United is yet and the hellhole that it's starting to become. And we're going for this player who is a major risk. And I get the age is on his side, but what my fear is, he's going to get exposed because he hasn't kicked a ball for us yet. And there's already people praising what he can do defensively going forward and going back as well. But we need that experience. And the thing is, people are then coming out claiming that we can't chuck him in straight away. Dorgu cannot be in that team at left back straight away. And again, I am going to come back to this. I completely disagree. Patrick Dorgu is going to have to come straight into the team. Dorgu is going to end up having to start games regularly at left back for Manchester United straight away because DALOT at left wing back or at left back, it does not work. DALOT has been crap for a long, long time. And a lot of people are waking up to that reality and are smelling the coffee. And it's like, at last, there's fans realising that DALOT has never, ever been good enough to put a Man United shirt on. And Man United have ended up having to stick by DALOT because we haven't got anyone else. Because Malacia and Shaw are both unreliable. And it really, really, really infuriates me that it's about time the fan base realised, do you know what? DALOT should have been moved a long, long time ago. We should have got rid of DALOT when we had the chance to. We're now having to go and spend this money on this left back, which I hope works, and I will back the player, but I don't think this is the right signing to go for because I wanted Nuno Mendes, I wanted Kirkes, I wanted Alphonso Davies. I don't want Dorgu because I think this is a panic desperation signing who isn't going to be ready to step up for Man United straight away. But he's going to have no choice because it's either we don't bring Dorgu in and we stick with DALOT till the summer, or we bring Dorgu in and he starts straight away, which I think he's going to have to anyway. And I think Ruben Amorim realises that Dorgu's going to have to come straight into the team because Shaw and Malacia are done. DALOT, that will end DALOT's career as well because DALOT won't be getting much game time. I hope Diego DALOT realises that. And I think DALOT's future could be on the line in the summer, because DALOT won't get a lot of football now. DALOT won't get a lot of first-team chances. He'll be on the bench for most of United's games now for the rest of the season, because Dorgu will be in that team straight away, because the left-back role will be sorted. The left wing-back role will be functioning properly without DALOT in the team, because Dorgu is now there at left-back. But it just concerns me, the money we're paying for him, and it feels like it's just a pure desperation signing. But again, back to the midfield, we need to go back to the traditional 4-3-3. I feel, for me, we need 2 centre attacking midfielders and 1 holding midfield role. That is what I think we should go back to, because I think that benefits Man United a lot more in an attacking sense as well as a defensive sense as well, because UGARTE is struggling, Fernandes is struggling, and without those two, that midfield would fall to pieces. But you can see that the games are starting to catch up with them, because they realise we really need that third man in the midfield, because we can't attack as much than what we want to do. We're both having to defend a lot more than what we're normally having to do, because without MAINOO in there, that team does not look straight. That team does not look strong. That team looks very, very weak in the midfield. And the opposition sense that. The opposition pounce on that vulnerability, because that midfield crumbled yesterday. And I think when MAINOO came on, everything looked a bit more controlled and a lot more of it looked a bit more of an attacking sense, that we started to create a lot more chances, and a lot more creative attacking football started to be created going forward till the end stages of yesterday's game at Craven Cottage against Fulham. And that made Man United a lot more of an attacking team, and it made us look a lot better when MAINOO came on. So I think, for me, you can see Fernandes is struggling, you can see UGARTE is struggling. I think if Ruben Amorim starts realising this, then MAINOO may have to be brought back in, and we then change back to the 4-3-3. We drop DALOT, we bring Dorgu in, we play Martínez, de Ligt, and we play Mazraoui. We play midfield attacking 2 of MAINOO and Fernandes, and then we put UGARTE back in that CDM role, because that, for me, makes the midfield a lot more suitable, a lot more controllable. It looks a lot more defensively solid, but in an attacking sense, it looks more flavorful. It looks a bit more passion. It looks a bit more of an attacking approach going forward. Makes us look Manchester United look a lot better, because that is where we struggled yesterday. Is because both midfielders are having to do their attacking roles as well as defence role, because they realise MAINOO's not there. And I think Fernandes and UGARTE are struggling to adapt to that, because they need that third extra man in that midfield to be able to help benefit their games, as well as make Manchester United look a bit more better going forward into an attacking approach, because we're not being able to get a lot more passes and through balls and over the top balls over the opposition back 4 to our front 3, because Fernandes is having to do most of that, because he hasn't got a MAINOO in there, he hasn't got an Eriksen in there, and we haven't really got a Mason Mount in there either. So I feel for Bruno, because he is our captain, he is our leader, and you can tell his game was a massive drop off on what it was against Rangers on Thursday. There was a massive difference yesterday, that his attacking game kind of went out the window, because the amount of long balls we were playing over the top to play up to Rasmus Højlund or Joshua ZIRKZEE, just for them to hold the ball up, and then for them just to pass the bloody ball backwards back to our back 3 with Maguire in it. And then the ball ended up going back to Onana, and then we just hoofed the ball up long again. That, for me, has got to stop, because that's getting boring. That really, for me, is not the way Man United should be playing, because it's not the way I've seen Manchester United before, where we're just hoofing the ball up long just to get to Højlund or ZIRKZEE to bring the ball down in front of the opposition's back 4, and then to pass the ball back, we then build up again, and we just keep hoofing the ball long. So I think, for me, we have got to bring MAINOO back in, and we have to drop DALOT. That's the only way I see us being a lot more defensively solid, and going forward as well, it makes Man United's attacking midfield approach a lot more stronger, and a lot more stability is brought in as well. So I think, for me, that should be the most obvious thing that I would do as a manager, is realise now, okay, the midfield's getting overrun here. UGARTE and Fernandes are both struggling, so they're both doing their attacking roles and their defence role. They're having to both do that as well. We need to change this, because they're both getting found out. They're both showing a lack of fitness and a lack of sharpness. and their attacking approach and defensive approach is going out the window because they're both doing it together because there's no extra man in that midfield supporting both of those two. So I feel MAINOO's got to come back into this team because it makes Man United a lot more of an attacking team and it makes Manchester United's football a lot more controllable. There's a lot more stability when he's in that team, and he made a massive difference yesterday when he came on. I mean, again, the assist he got for Ahmad's goal, which wasn't offside, by the way, how VAR ruled that goal off from Ahmad that it was offside is utterly unfucking believable. It wasn't offside. Ahmad is clearly onside in an onside position, and you can see the Fulham centre-back is keeping Ahmad clearly on. And the assist and the combination play between Ahmad and MAINOO was absolutely fantastic. You've not seen that in a while. That there's a few combinations starting to happen between a few little players, and that goal yesterday should have stood because the play and the technique and the skill between the 1-2 touch, pass and move setup between MAINOO and Ahmad was fantastic. We didn't have that all game, so that goal shouldn't have been ruled out. That was never offside, and I felt sorry for Ahmad because he's been put in a situation where that wasn't offside. He's been clearly kept in an onside position, and the goal's been ruled out. But the Fulham centre-back has kept him onside. So I don't really get how that goal has been ruled out. That was never offside. So I think for me, that goal should have been given because for me, if you're giving that offside, you will give anything offside. So I don't think for me that was fair because you've ruled out a perfectly good goal between two good attacking players that created a lot of technique and a lot of skill between both of them. And the goal gets ruled out because Ahmad's offside, which he isn't. So, again, I feel sorry for Ahmad, but, I think MAINOO has to come back in for Thursday. As for the attack, you can tell that Ruben Amorim is clearly not happy with his front three. I don't think anyone, by the comments we saw yesterday and by Ruben Amorim's attitude, body language, and by his facial expressions, you can tell Ruben Amorim is not happy with this front three. You can tell Ruben Amorim is really struggling to get a good game out of ZIRKZEE. He is struggling to get a good game out of Rasmus HOJLUND. And the only hope we've got as an attacking team, from an attacking sense, to create massive attacking opportunities, the only hope we've got in this team is Ahmad. He is the only one that really gives everything a go. He's the only attacking player that actually creates the opposition problems. He's the only player that I really trust going forward in an attacking sense because he creates the most attacking opportunities. He creates a lot of problems for the opposition back four, and he gets inside a lot of the penalty areas of these opposition teams, and he can create a lot of chances for his teammates. His goal shouldn't have been ruled out. Again, VAR should have went back and that should have been reviewed because that was never off bloody side. So the goal should have stood. And, we are stuck with Rasmus HOJLUND. We're stuck with Joshua ZIRKZEE. And you can tell that Ruben Amorim is starting to lose patience. You can tell that he's really starting to get really frustrated, annoyed, angry that he's got two strikers here that neither of them can put a ball in the back of the net. Neither of them are consistent. Both their plays and their hold-up play aren't good enough for a level that Manchester United are actually requiring. And we are basically stuck in a position where we've got two strikers that United chucked 135 fucking million on, who both haven't worked, have been both massive mistakes. Neither of them are a clinical goal scorer. Neither of them can put the ball in the net. Both their games yesterday were massively horrific. And we are stuck using both of them up front. And I'm really starting to get to that point now that these both need moving on. Both of these players need to be moved on in this last week of January. United have got to start grabbing by the balls by the horn and realising we need two clinical goal scorers. We need two clinical strikers in this team going forward because ZIRKZEE isn't going to work. Rasmus HOJLUND's been a disaster and neither of them are scoring goals. Most of the source of our goals are coming from our centre-backs and our midfielders. And that is basically it. We don't have a goal scorer in this team. And Man United are like that, penny pinching. Can they not see we need a goal scorer? Can you tell Ruben Amorim doesn't have a striker in the Os? The Glazers, can you tell that we're struggling to put the ball in the net? Because again, that is on them for splashing 135 million on 2 strikers that were never going to be good enough. 2 Serie A mistakes that Manchester United should have went nowhere near. And we're stuck with them because they're on stupid wages, they're on a stupid contract, and they're stuck here. Earlier I did. I got it in. I know, but I got it in. So they're stuck with the contracts they're on. They're stuck on their contracts with the wages that they're on because Man United paid stupid money for them. And we can't sell them. We can't get rid. And they can't score a goal. And you could tell yesterday by Ruben Amorim's body language, it's not fair on him. I'm not a United fan nor a Spurs fan, but I don't feel comfortable seeing where these 2 teams sitting in the table. Yeah, I completely agree. Tottenham and Manchester United should not be sitting both in bottom half of the Premier League table. It's been a joke of a season for both football clubs, but that's another story for another day. But I completely agree with the comment and the view and the opinion, but I do agree what you're saying there. But yeah, we are stuck with these 2 up front. And you can tell we're having to change one for the other every match. One doesn't work one day, one doesn't work the other day. Ruben Amorim's having to keep changing the team because he feels like Rasmus Højlund is comfortable for one game, then ZIRKZEE is comfortable for another game. And then we have to keep rotating between both of them and bringing one off for the other. And really, is that good enough? No, it's not acceptable. It's not good enough. And Manchester United really need to improve the striker situation. But Man United don't want to spend money because we ain't got no money, apparently. But yet we're bringing in this left back. So we need a goal scorer. And there's plenty available. In Nkunku, I'm seeing a lot of Man United fans moaning and complaining and basically slagging him off already. And he's not even joined Manchester United yet. And I hope we do get Nkunku and he proves people wrong. But again, the concern I've got there bringing in a player like Nkunku from Chelsea is his injury record absolutely stinks. His injury record is so smelly that the stench coming off that injury record is stinking out the toilet. And we haven't got any spray. We've got no after spray. We've got no deodorant to spray around the toilet because the injury record he's got, he's on the par of Luke Shaw. He's on the par of Malacia. But we need a goal scorer. What else do you want Man United to do? There's plenty of strikers we could go for and bring in and get because Man United can go and get a striker and they're going to have to sanction one or the other. Like Osman is still available and Man United is still looking at Osman. I would bring him in, but I would bring in Nkunku in as well. I would replace Rasmus Højlund and sell him to get Osman, and then I would sell ZIRKZEE to get money for Nkunku and buy him. But again, if Nkunku then gets injured, he's then out for ages, and then we're stuck with Osman, and then we don't have no backup striker. So Man United, again, are stuck in a situation now where we're getting so desperate to bring a striker in that we're having to search all around Europe and all around the world to bring a striker in because we don't fucking have one because Højlund has not worked. ZIRKZEE has not worked, and they're getting protected by certain United fan channels because they want to protect both players. But both of them logically are offering nothing going forward in an attacking sense. And their body language and their facials, it's really starting to stink that they're clearly both struggling for confidence and attitude. And there's a mental problem there because their games are suffering because they know they're not making a difference in the team. They're not making a difference or an impact on the result. And then it's getting them into a bad mental state of mind because they're not doing what Man United want for them and what is best for them really now. I think is we both move them on and we both sell them and bring Osman and bring in Nkunku in the striker situation sorted. If you can sort that in the last week of this transfer window, because the transfer window shuts on Monday. So United are going to have to get to work because you clearly need to bring a striker in. Because even their hold-up plays yesterday, the amount of time Rasmus or ZIRKZEE brought the ball down in front of that opposition's back four in Fulham, the amount of time they ended up having to pass the ball back to midfield, which then went back to the centre-back, which then went back to Onana. We ended up just hoofing the ball on from Onana to try and get it back to ZIRKZEE or to Højlund. And then that process of playing the ball back goes again and again and again. And even how many times they brought the ball down or they managed to control the ball or run with the ball, Look how many times ZIRKZEE or HOJLUND made a mistake with the ball, made a mistake with a pass, and gave it back to the opposition. That is what we're stuck with. We are stuck with ZIRKZEE and HOJLUND because neither of their games are being able to be adapted, because neither of them are good enough. Neither of them are good enough. And we need to replace both, in my view. They're not, neither of them should be in a Man United shirt. Neither of these two should be at Manchester United Football Club as a whole. But we are stuck with both of them because United can't shift them. And I don't know what Manchester United do. I don't know where Manchester United go from, because it's starting to get really, really concerning that we are stuck with these two. We both deep down know both need to go, and Man United won't sell them. But if Man United have got any balls, do it and bring two strikers in, because that will solve the problem. If you got rid of ZIRKZEE and HOJLUND today, I'd applaud it, because it solves that those two have been massive mistakes. Those two have been mistakes. And in a better league, they'd probably score a lot more goals. But in the Premier League, we're stuck with them. So I don't know what we do with that situation. As to the goal and to the result, like I said at the beginning, we've got to be thankful that Lisandro Martínez stepped up and delivered when he could. Obviously, United have had a massive, massive bit of fortune and a massive bit of luck with the goal, because obviously the shot has taken a massive, massive deflection off the Fulham midfielder, which has managed for the ball to then loop over Bernd Leno. I think, again, it's poor goalkeeping, because he's managed to get a hand and a glove to the Lisandro Martínez deflected shot from outside the penalty area that has looped over him. But he has still got a glove to the ball, but he still can't keep it out. Again, for me, from an aspect from a Fulham fan, that's really poor goalkeeping. That's not really good enough as a goalkeeper. As your number one goalkeeper, I would have expected Bernd Leno to still have kept that goal out and that shot out. But I think probably because there's too much shot on the power from Martínez in the first place, and it's hit the Fulham midfield at such a pace and at such a rapid time, the ball's had too much pace and too much power and too much technique, really, for the ball to be able to be stopped from looping over the goalkeeper. Again, if the goalkeeper gets a hand and a glove to it, you would have expected him to keep it out. But fortunate for Manchester United, it has gone in the back of the net. And I think Martínez, in that moment, you've got to applaud the attitude and the commitment and desire to actually try and make something happen, because otherwise this game finishes 0-0. We only get a point, we only get a draw, and it's more disappointment on the away end from the Man United fans support. So I applaud for watching that yesterday. That was a hard game for 95, 96 minutes. That was a game of many, many proportions of how frustrating, how angry, and how poor we actually were. But I'm glad Martínez took the time and took the quality to be able to find something, because this was going to be a completely different full-time reaction. This was going to be a completely different outcome to what I had planned, because the title would have been different as well, because I was frustrated for that whole 96 minutes. But I think the admiration, the stress, and the relief that went off my shoulders was because Martínez stepped up and delivered that goal. But again, there's a massive bit of luck on the side. And if that wouldn't have had that deflection or that block, and it didn't loop over the goalkeeper, would have been sat here angry, annoyed, and very frustrated that, again, it's more points dropped away from home again, and it'll be more points dropped in the Premier League again, and we wouldn't have really climbed up the Premier League table. And we're only up to what, 12th or 11th up in the league. We've not exactly moved far, so we're still in the bottom half of the league. We are still in the bottom half of the Premier League, and we've got to keep winning and keeping up the momentum. We have got 2 wins in a row, so that must be saying something. But let's not take everything too hasty. We take one step at a time. And I think we give player of the match to Lisandro Martínez for finding that winning moment and that winning goal. But again, it's pure luck. And thank God we counted our lucky chickens for that goal going into the back of the Fulham net. So I hope you enjoyed this full-time reaction. Please hit the like button and the share button. Please keep subscribing to the channel, which is United Red Devils 20 on YouTube. Share the video, hit the tweet button, hit the retweet button. Remember to always remember the notification bell. Put the bell on at all times to receive dedicated upcoming content right throughout the rest of 2025 this year. We've got brand new videos, brand new shorts, brand new live streams. We've got plenty of brand new content planned for all of you amazing people right throughout this year in 2025. And please remember, we will do our look ahead for the UEFA Europa League game on Thursday night away in Romania against FCSB on Thursday night, on the last game of the league phase of the Europa League, match day 8. We'll do that look ahead for that tomorrow evening, so please join me for that. And yeah, we've got to be thankful that United found a way to win, but it wasn't pretty, it was ugly, and it looked pretty desperate. But thank God Lisandro Martínez stepped up at the right place at the right time to find that winning goal. Enjoy the rest of your Monday afternoon, whatever you're all doing. You're all amazing, you're all legends, you're all legendary. I'll see all of you amazing people on the next one.